The business has to be making enough money to be worth buying. That might seem like a no-brainer as I say it, but part of the reason many businesses don't sell is there's not enough money to pay the new owner much more than a salary, but also they have to make debt payments. So there's got to be enough cash flow and profit coming out of the business to make the debt payments and give the new buyer the cash flow lifestyle that they are looking for, and to also grow the business. Hey, Exit Focus founder. Welcome to the Stealth Freedom to Exit podcast, where we dive into the real questions, the real answers, the strategies, the mindset, the roadmap, basically the changes that self-led founders need to make now before they find out it's too late and they have an asset that is not sellable, which is true for 4 out of 5 businesses that get listed. They are not sellable. Only 1 in 5 actually sells. So in this podcast, we talk about how do we get you operational independence, a real exit strategy that will work and will make you happy, and how do you get radical life-changing results? I'm Lonnie Dickinson, your Freedom Sherpa on this journey, and we are all about helping you get what I say are 2 versions of exit. 1, time and location freedom. The other, an actual sale at the end for the maximum multiple that is possible for your business. Here's the cool thing. The actions are the same no matter which version of exit you want. So with that, let's dive into the whole list of things that are going to drive your exit value for you and also get you time and location freedom. The first thing is that we have to realize is buyers today are not looking for a job. Many of the boomers who are ready to sell their businesses, they grew up in a different time where hard work was sort of a badge of honor, and it built the world as we know it today. But buyers today are not looking for a job they have to work in. They are looking for cash flows and return on investment. And frankly, there are several people out there training buyers on how to buy your business with no money out of pocket. And because most businesses aren't built in a way that make them sellable or sustainable, they are also teaching them how to keep you in the business for another 2 to 5 years, running the business, but now as an employee. And they're making the payments off of your existing cash flow. So it's really important to dial in and hear what are the drivers of that exit value and what are the changes you need to make now so that you're not caught in that situation. First, the business has to be making enough money to be worth buying. That might seem like a no-brainer as I say it, but part of the reason many businesses don't sell is there's not enough money to pay the new owner much more than a salary. And I already said they don't want to work in the business, but also they have to make debt payments. So there's got to be enough cash flow and profit coming out of the business to make the debt payments and give the new buyer the cash flow lifestyle that they are looking for, and to also grow the business. In a person-to-person transaction, that would be about a minimum of $1 million in EBITDA or seller discretionary earnings. And in an institutional transaction where another company or private equity is buying the business, that's going to be at around $10 million. So as you're thinking about, is my business sellable, depending upon who you're looking to buy your business, we got to hit either $1 million or $10 million. The very next thing, which is kind of in a tie for earnings, is the business self-run without the owner? That means, is there a team that is developed enough to run the business and stay after the selling transaction? This is key. I've already talked about all the reasons why. The next thing is not just making at least $1 million or $10 million, but profitable with very high margins. And in future episodes, I will talk about why that matters in depth. But basically, people are looking for return on their investment. And when you think about it, we can invest our money in the stock market and get about 7% return. And most small businesses are making about a 5% return. So why would somebody buy your business if they could make more in the stock market? So we will deep dive that in a future episode. The next thing that is critically important is a predictable, repeatable sales system, meaning we turn on the lever and sales come in, and we can show that that's very predictable and repeatable. And the thing that makes that even a higher quality item is if we have documented how we have optimized each phase of that. And the next thing that takes it up a notch is, do we have monthly recurring revenue that's very high quality? We'll dive into that in a future episode as well. but monthly recurring revenue will get a minimum of $2 for every dollar you have in monthly recurring revenue. So this is a hot topic in the small business entrepreneurial space, but it has definite impact to your ultimate exit multiple. The thing that most small business owners and entrepreneurs hate is SOPs. They hate writing them, but we have to have system and process that show how this business is run, front end and back end. We have to have our key systems documented and again, optimized. And we also have to have what we call OKR or KPI, objective key results and key performance indicators. Otherwise, how do we know if we're getting better or we're getting worse? So we want to be able to track data on these systems, these key systems. And what takes that up a notch in the exit multiple is if key leaders in your organization have their compensation tied to the outcome of those OKRs and those KPIs. So we'll deep dive that in another episode. Another thing that shows a very strong business that's worth buying and worth paying a fair multiple for is a communication cadence and the discipline to have a monthly review where we deep dive all of the numbers. So numbers are important. And we say, what are we going to deep dive and make better? And then having a quarterly project where every quarter we take one little segment and we fully optimize that and we start closest to cash. So if we can document that we have that discipline, that's going to drive our exit value even higher. The next thing that a buyer is going to be looking for is your history of focused and intentional year-over-year growth, coupled with the growth plan for after the sale and how their investment can actually make that growth go faster or be larger. So a real emphasis on growth. Remember, they're buying cash flow and they're buying return on their money. So really, they're not looking to buy plateaued businesses. The next thing that they're going to look at in the valuation is concentrations. That's concentrations of customers. So do you have 1, 2, or 3 main customers, or do you have 10 customer types or 20 or more? And then the same with your suppliers. COVID taught us we don't really want to be dependent on 1 or 2 suppliers. So we've probably already learned that lesson, but it also impacts your exit multiple. But it's not enough just to have a diversified customer base. We also want to have really happy customers. And so how are they judging really happy customers? Well, they're looking for, do you have a formalized way that you get and implement feedback? And the most popular way is through a net promoter scoring system. We will talk about that in later episodes. But do you have happy repeat buyers that make referrals and grow your business by word of mouth? And then how do you systematically take their feedback and improve the business? Another thing that is important to note is they really generally don't want the real estate. Real estate does not appreciate in the same way as growth. In the business, number one. And number two, they're not looking for the opportunity to just randomly buy machines. So your capital needs to be up to date. If not, that's going to be a discount on the exit multiple. Now, all of this comes down to the numbers. How well are you managing to the financials? There's a statistic out there from the Small Business Association that says something like only 35% of business owners get their financials and less than 5% even look at them. Now, those might be off by a few percentage based on my memory, but at the end of the day, what that says is most of us aren't doing anything with our financials. And so it's important. We got to get a bookkeeper at the minimum. Depending upon where you are in business, you may need a CPA. And if you want to sell your business in the next 3 to 5 years, you absolutely want to transition to having a CPA. And we want audited financials. And at the time of the sale, you might even want to provide a seller quality of earnings report. And we want to be very transparent about all of those costs that we're sticking in the business that our CPA has told us, yes, we can tax deduct those things, but they aren't completely necessary for the ongoing running of the business. So those are called seller discretionary earnings. We really want to get them out. And if that's not possible, just because the reason we do that is to minimize our tax burden, right? We want to be very transparent about that so that it doesn't create another discount in our selling transaction discussions. The other thing is we want to be eliminating as many costs as we can without slowing down growth, and then being able to show that we pay for experts rather than generalists. This is a whole topic in another podcast. The other thing that they're going to look at is what is our competitive advantage? Do you have IP? Do you have trademarks? Do you have license? Do you have a process that nobody else has? Is there some kind of unique access that you have? What's your brand story? What's your big why? What were the struggles? This all reveals the company's DNA. Is this dog going to hunt? Is this horse going to win the race? This is what the brand story reveals to the buyer. Our past generally informs the future. So it's important, if you were in business in 2020 and 2008, to be able to show what was the trough of those years, and then how long did it take you to come out of that trough. So the peak to trough story. Your brand story is incredibly important. There's an online marketer, his name is Billy Gene, and he put what's called an order bump on a checkout. And that's really not important, but it was something people had to pay money for. So it was $9.95 order bump. And he stated on the bump, in the video, at the checkout, all the places, this is literally for nothing. $9.95 gets you nothing. He restated it many times. His brand is so powerful. By the end of 30 days, he had made $5,000 on that. People just believe, oh, this is Billy Gene. He's going to put out a quality product. And so they bought this thing. So what is your brand story and the strength of your brand? So this is kind of the main list of things that we will talk about in depth in future episodes. We will interview people who've gone through the process. We'll interview experts on each of these topics. And at the end of the day, help set you up in a way that you are positioned for either version of exit, whether that's time and location freedom, or to sell your business for as much as you possibly can when you're ready to completely exit and exit for more.